So what do you mean about age-appropriate sexualised behaviour in adolescence?
So we often different terms get used, but sort of that age expected is a term we sometimes use. Sometimes people talk about normal sexual behaviour for the age, and I think normal is quite difficult because we were talking about this the other day about how what one person's normal is totally different to another person's normal. Like what one person in a family home, different families have different rules around, doors being open and levels of being dressed or clothing. So it's really hard to talk about normal, but I think for all young people, in terms of the brain development that's going on and hormonal changes that are going on, no matter what background you're from, what cultural, what values you might hold, there is going to be those age expected behaviours. And without listing off all the behaviours, some of them are going to be those behaviours that might have parents or caregivers worried, and it might not fit with that parent or caregiver's own values. So, in terms of examples of those, we do have a really great resource on our website that goes through each age. And breaks it down, because I suppose if you think around the teenage age range, what we'd expect to see from a 13-year-old is going to be very different to an 18-year-old. So it breaks it down, and I think it can be really helpful for parents, caregivers, even professionals sometimes, to just kind of reevaluate and to have a look through those lists of behaviours and to think, oh yeah, that is probably what I'd expect to see from that young person. Can you talk more about any specifics?
Yeah, well, I think just in terms of just acknowledging in terms of human development, adolescence is a very formative time for the young person because they are re-looking at their own identity. They're making sense of who they want to be in the world, and they're going through some really rapid physical changes through puberty. So there are hormonal changes that are shifting too. And of course, what really matters for a young person, the research time and time reflects this, is that young people take the lead from other peer age young people. So if you've got young people that are, if it's age typical to be sharing sexualized content, then you may have young people who want to gravitate towards that. We're not saying that that's appropriate or okay, but that may be age typical for that age group because they are exploring their own sexuality, their gender, and what it means to be attracted to someone. And they are developing a sense of attraction. I guess we don't want to stop that process, because it is a like a quote unquote natural process to develop one's sense of what they're attracted to. But it's about doing that in a way where there are trusted and safe adults in the young person's life who can help shape and counter message some of the messages that the big multi-million-dollar corporations are promoting.
Yeah, and I think what Joel was saying, that what's age expected, in terms of that starting off developing relationships and whatever term is used, but like that hooking up sort of early stage forming of relationships is all really age expected, and then you combine that with technology, and then you do then end up seeing the sexualized images being shared, which that then brings up the legal context around that. So then you've got this, okay, this is age expected, but actually now this is getting into that realm where, if you're taking an image, sending an image, what that means in a legal context. And I think there's a video that was made by one of the other organisations which talks to some of that legal the legal context around that. So it's a really difficult area to kind of go, this is age expected and this is okay, because there's some age expected stuff which starts to fall into that realm. And I think it's really, I think in the, for the children's space, it's a bit clearer around what's age expected and that's okay, and we're used to sort of managing behaviours with younger children. And then when it comes to the adolescent space, we know there's these age expected behaviours, but it's a lot. There's a lot of grey areas in what is okay and what's not okay, and when it doesn't align with perhaps a parent, caregiver or whānau's own values, and it goes against them, then that could be a tricky space as well. But I think it is just important that we all, no matter what your values are, that we're just thinking actually this is a stage that everybody goes through, no matter what background you come from and what sort of views you have as a family.
And I think also just to acknowledge, like, we are sexual beings, we are visceral beings, we are sensory beings, we experience the world in a number of different ways, and particularly with the with puberty kicking in, that also has effects. Risk taking as a part of being an adolescent, and it's something that's important, because we always are learning to take risks, and life's a bit of an adventure sometimes. So you actually do need to learn how to take risks, but to do that safely, hopefully with the guidance of trusted and safe adults. Is the key there.
Yeah, and I think that, combine the risk taking with sexualised behaviour, and that's when you've got a parent and caregiver who are often like, it can be a scary place. But just again taking that moment to pause and just to kind of take stock, because again the big reactions is what's going to probably lead to a young person not sharing. And so holding in mind that these potentially risk taking, age expected behaviours are happening, and to just take a moment for how we respond, and to just be curious, and to still show that support for the young person, instead of a big response that can be, like you said before, like that shaming response.